Hello, everybody. My name is Catherine, and I've come today from London, UK, where I'm Head of Learning and Engagement for Young V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum site for children. It's my very first time in Seoul, and I'm so honoured and excited to be here and very inspired by the huge ambition and achievement of cases and today's discussion about the future of arts and education for children and young people. Also, huge congratulations on this 20th anniversary of the policy. We know, and we've heard today already, the many benefits of culture and art in education to children and young people, and its potential to transform young lives now and in the future. And today I'm going to share the V&A's journey to creating a museum with and for children. So just to start, a bit of context about the museum. You may have heard of the Victoria and Albert Museum, which was established in Queen Victoria's time, known as the V&A, one of the world's leading museums of art and design. And not long after we founded that museum, we opened the very first public museum in East London, the building that the Young V&A now occupies. Then, as now, East London was a place of challenge, diversity, cultural uniqueness, demanding an active and relevant museum to educate, entertain, and inspire. The clear and increasing need for better access to creative education and to child-centred cultural experiences led to a radical plan that has transformed our museum from a social history focus into a centre of creativity for the young. And in this image, you can see we have the main Victoria and Albert Museum in West London. We have the exterior of Young V&A in the centre, which is where I work, and we opened that museum after its renovation in July 2023. And then just at the end here, we have the exterior of the V&A East Museum, which is opening next year, and we're opening a site in East London with our collection this month. So here we are, Young V&A. We opened it in July 2023. We worked collaboratively with children and young people to develop the museum. And since we opened, we've welcomed over 1 million visitors in its first 18 months. And we're very proud that we've won a number of different awards, including Art Fund Museum of the Year last year, the biggest museum prize in the world. And that's not because the museum is great, although I think it is. I think it's time now for us to think differently about hearing from young children and thinking about dedicated spaces that enable them to embed culture and learn arts in their own learning. The story of the museum's transformation has been one about learning to listen to children and young people to make a bigger impact on their cultural, educational experiences. This is the museum prior to its transformation. It was welcoming to children, but it wasn't child-centred. It was about the social history of children, but not for children. It was a place that was really beloved by many people, but it was also a place that really focused on conservation of museum objects rather than visitor experience. It was dark, it was cluttered, and perhaps not fulfilling its educational potential. So this is what the museum looks like now. It has become lighter. There's space to run and play. We have applied expertise relating to education, pedagogy, child development, design, and the hopes and views of children themselves to make a museum that is fun. It's a fun place to be in, a great place to play, and a place of creative education. So here's the big question. How did we work collaboratively with young audiences at Young V&A to develop a museum that meets the needs of new generations? Well, the key is that we had to work with those generations because their experiences are different to ours. Childhood has changed, the world has changed, and the complexities of the world around us have only increased. So our vision was to build creative confidence and design skills for Gen Alpha, children born since 2010. Our audience is broadly from birth up until the age of 14, literally the formative years of our being, from being a baby enjoying sensory encounters with the world to being a teenager thinking about careers and emerging into adulthood. You grow up with the museum. And our 4 aims are to inspire, to empower, to connect, and to influence. And inspiring is really about the privilege of working with children and young people, that we hope that experiences with us at our museum are positive and inspiring, and that build agency and appetite for wanting to engage with our museum. We want to empower by working collaboratively with the grown-ups who support children. When you're aged from birth to 14 and living in London, you can't choose to go to a museum by yourself. You always need the permission and support of an adult. And if we don't work collaboratively with parents and carers and teachers, we don't get anywhere. Policies and programs that only target children forget about the environment that they work in. And so our work to empower grown-ups is just as important as the work that we do with children. Although we want the children to be the beneficiaries, we all win. Connecting is about, again, the uniqueness of cultural spaces and museums. It's an incredible place where people can come together. And these places, which are free to go to and bring generations together, are becoming more and more difficult to access in our cities. And so recognizing the opportunity to expose children to designers, entrepreneurs, innovators of all generations, and for children to see and learn from each other is an important part of being in our museum. And then the influence piece is really about us building a solid evidence base so that we can work with confidence but also share what we're learning in child-centred museum practice. The policy context, the landscape in England for this work, is not always a happy picture. There are growing inequalities with access to education and creativity for children. There's a decline in children sitting end-of-school exams in creative and expressive arts. There are lots of questions at the moment about what the school curriculum should look like, and our current government are undergoing a number of different reviews. Reviews into the role of curriculum from early years upwards, the role of play in society and access of opportunity for children, concern about digital access and safety for children. There have been some very negative headlines about childhood and childhood experiences from early years upwards in the UK. But Young V&A is a place of hope, because when we asked children what they wanted from our museum, they told us they wanted the most joyful museum in the world. And we really took that to heart. Our mission is to build creative confidence, and the reason for that has only become more urgent as time has gone by. We started this project in 2017, but the need for access to creative education has only increased. The impact of the pandemic continues to have a long tail in the UK, where we closed our schools and isolated children. The instances of loneliness and the impact on early childhood of isolation is still very clear as children are starting school. We have increasing evidence that inclusion and diversity is really important in creative and cultural education, but also in building a diverse and sustainable workforce. And the increasing understanding of neurodivergence and disability is also increasing need, and so we need to think about these in our creative spaces. We also know that in this complex world, children are very worried about lots of big global issues like climate change. And so we really feel that thinking and applying creativity is one of the ways that we can show children that they can apply their creative confidence and make the world a better place. We want to empower them. And that makes me skip for joy. There's a child enjoying the centre of the museum. This space in the museum is a space where children are often running, skipping and jumping. Somebody joined me from our grown-ups museum in South Kensington, and she said to me, "Catherine, I've just seen a child cartwheeling, tumble-turning through the museum." She said, "I've never worked in a museum where somebody's done that before." Kids are the boss in our museum, and they know that, and this warm welcome, but an environment that's really informed by our understanding of educational theory. The idea of the environment as the educator, if anyone knows their Reggio Emilia, is an important part of the practice that we have. Our museum has 3 free permanent galleries: Play, Imagine and Design, and those galleries are free to access and broadly track our interpretation of introducing creativity and building confidence in children. Our galleries, whilst the developmental phases of children really vary from birth to 14, everybody's welcome everywhere, except our mini museum, which is dedicated for our very youngest children. But in all of them, we have world-class collections, opportunities to learn and play and see and do. And we made the museum by collaborating with children and young people. We used our knowledge of child development and research, creative pedagogies, and we know from working with children that they learn best when they are doing. So Young V&A is a learning and a seeing and a doing museum. And children told us that they wanted to see themselves in the museum. So sprinkled through the galleries, you will see examples of things that we have made or curated or designed with children as well. So co-design was an important part of developing the spaces and galleries in our museum. And this stair that you can see in this image just to the side is one of the largest pieces of co-design in the building. We put cameras on children and got them to explore and tell us how they like to move about the place. And we realized that some of our spaces weren't so well connected. When we asked them what they'd like to see to help them move around the building, the first answers were a live tiger, a slide, a rocket, a hot air balloon, and they weren't so practical. So through the co-designing process, working with our architectural teams, we negotiated and explored what was a practical design solution and ended up with this beautiful stair. Co-creation is another part of the development of Young V&A. We worked with artists and we invited children to respond to the museum's collections and displays with their own ideas so that their voices sit alongside the world-class collections that we want to share with them. Not all of our objects are for children, but we've selected them so that they are interesting to children, and there's an opportunity to either see another child's responses or to play and explore them yourselves. So co-creation is a key part of Young V&A. Crowdsourcing also, just inviting local children to show us how they want to be represented is another part of Young V&A. And this is a photographer and artist who worked with us to capture images of local children expressing their creativity for display in the museum. Co-curation, again, another important technique we used for working with children to think about the relevancy of our collections and the stories we could tell in our museum space. And all of that has led to what I now understand is not just a museum for children, but also a really good indicator about what a future museum should have. It should listen to its audiences. There should be space for their voices. They should be active, not stagnant spaces. Our collections can continue to inspire contemporary and applied creativity. Our collections play a key role in showing children excellence and inspiring them. And we use a variety of handling collections as well to give children a tactile and haptic experience. And of course, my role is head of learning and engagement, and there is a lot to do and learn. In each of our permanent galleries, there is a space for learning, and then we have a dedicated learning centre with a variety of programmes that run every day, some free, some targeted at children in need, others that are more about depth and longitudinal projects as well. So we have our mini museum where our tiniest tots learn to speak, learn to sing, learn to respond to the textures and environment, and are rewarded for that curiosity that we know small children have. Our Build It area is full of giant building blocks, and we help children learn teamwork while they think about structure and loose parts construction and design and problem solving. We have our stage area where children try on costumes and work with us to build stories and performances. We have our open studio where we always have a resident designer who can show children design in process. And ultimately, Young V&A is a museum where we hope that children are able to make their mark on us and on each other so that they are rewarded by creativity, but so that their education is enriched. I have some reading references, if anybody wants them later, things that have inspired us, informed us, and helped us move forward. We're always very grateful for all the influences that have come to the museum. But that's all from me. Thank you very much.